We go right to Mitch Landrieu, National Co-Chair of Harris for President. So good to see you this
Great
evening.
to be here. Thank you for having me.
That was a huge speech, a huge moment, a huge backdrop. On that point of her trying to distinguish herself from Biden, was there a key moment in that speech that you think voters will connect to suggest, yes, she will be different?
Well, first of all, it was an incredible night. I was there, and there were 70,000 people there.
70,000?
Yeah, we were going to go to Madison Square Garden, but we couldn't fit, so we had to go there. It was just a huge turnout, and it was exuberant, and it was joyful, and the environment in which she gave the speech was really uplifting and hopeful, which is what the speech was. It was a fairly detailed speech. She laid out in clear detail what the risks are of re-electing Donald Trump. She talked about the fact that behind her was the Resolute desk, and in 7 days, the people are going to decide whether she's going to be sitting there or Donald Trump's going to be sitting there. And she reminded the public that Donald Trump has already talked about out of his own mouth spending his time talking about his enemies list and the fact that she had a to-do list. And then she's talked about how she's going to build an opportunity economy for all of us, not just some of us, and distinguish herself from Joe Biden by saying, listen, I love the president. We did great work together, but I have different problems than he had, the most important of which is lowering costs for the American people. And I think she addressed it really very forthrightly and better tonight than she has in the past.
Well, you're a lawyer as well. You know the value of primacy and recency, what you first hear versus what you last hear.
Correct.
She bookended with a discussion about democracy, and obviously setting the scene, it was evident of what the message she was trying to convey. People remember January 6th very well, particularly in places like Washington, D.C., and all across the country. Do you think that that message will break through, or is breaking through, given the fact that the race is still very close in spite of that memory?
Well, first of all, I think Donald Trump's existence on the political stage is a result of a big lie. And the big lie is one that is antithetical to the American idea of a peaceful transition of power. That is the one gift that we've given to ourselves and given to the world, that when the people have spoken, the president transfers power from one administration to the next. He interrupted that. It is the first time since the Civil War that there was actually a Confederate flag in the halls, the sacred space of the United States Capitol. And Donald Trump continues to tell the lie that the election was stolen and that that day was really just a picnic and a day of love. I think most Americans look back on that, and even those that like him say that was an egregious day where he sat there when his vice president's life was at risk and he said the words, "So what?" So that's who she's running against.
She began with that and made it very clear to people that this was the split screen.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't just the felon and the prosecutor. It was the transition of power, the transfer of power, one who believes that she is the illustration of democracy and democratic principles, the other who thinks that he is for very different reasons. But there's also a split screen that's happening, and even though this speech, many called it dynamic and on the mark and perhaps meeting the moment, there was another moment today from President Biden who spoke out about a comment that was made at Madison Square Garden. I want you to listen to what he had to say about that comedian's, I hate to even call it a joke. Listen.
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American. It's totally contrary to everything we've done, everything we've been.
Now, Biden says he wasn't really referring to Trump's supporters, but you've heard the statement. What is the Harris campaign's response to that, given the real outrage there was about the association with Americans and garbage?
Well, I'll say a couple of things. First of all, the president cleaned that up later tonight by saying he was referring to the comments that were made that day by the 7 speakers. Now, if people want to watch 2 different split screens, they should go back and look at all the speakers that spoke before Trump's ascended to the stage and the speakers tonight at the Kamala Harris event. Ours was civic, it was civil, it was thoughtful, it was about coming together as one people. Nobody could watch those 7 or 8 speakers before Donald Trump and not believe that Donald Trump knew about it. The other thing that I would like to say about it is this. I know we're concentrating on the comedian's language, which was awful, But there was nothing said that day that Donald Trump himself has not said. I think President Biden's comments today were unfortunate. I think he cleaned them up a little bit and said, I'm not talking about human beings, because when you begin to dehumanize individuals, it means you can do what you will with them. And I believe that we're going to win this election, because I think independents, Republicans, and Democrats understand that if this umbrella of democracy is not protected, we then will not have the freedom to have the kinds of fights that our founding fathers wanted us to have. Did anybody actually just think for a second that the founding fathers created this country for people who disagreed with each other, so that we could disagree peacefully, so that we could come to a resolution powerfully, and then move on to a better tomorrow? And that's why she said we have to turn the page and we have to, create a new day for the country.
Mitch Landrieu,
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Nice to see you.